Let us worship.
This is weird.
Good morning. I am Sarah Featherstone, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees here at South Valley UU Society. My pronouns are she and her. Come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. No matter your gender, whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears in your eyes. You are welcome here. No matter what you've experienced in the past, no matter what awaits you in the future, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God all of the time or some of the time or none of the time, you are welcome here. This is a community of open minds, loving hearts, and willing hands. You are welcome here at South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society.
Okay, hymn time?
No, call to worship.
Oh.
Good morning again. Our call to worship this morning, I was inspired this week to our call to worship from the wind that we had earlier this week. It's so interesting the way that the wind sort of blows in and blows through and it stirs everything up. And so I found this reading today that talks about that quality of the wind and how necessary it is to enliven and to enrich our lives, even if it makes it so we can't go for a walk in the afternoon because it's so breezy. This is written by Lyle Watson and it's entitled, Blessed Be the Wind. Blessed be the wind. Blessed be the wind, for without the wind, most of the earth would be uninhabitable. The tropics would grow so unbearably hot that nothing could live there, and the rest of the planet would freeze. Moisture, if any existed, would be confined to the oceans, and all but the fringe of the great continents would be desert. There would be no erosion, no soil, and for any community that managed to evolve despite these rigors, no relief from the suffocation from their own waste. But with the wind, Earth truly comes alive. Winds provide the circulatory and nervous systems of the planet, sharing out energy and information, distributing both warmth and awareness, making something out of nothing. All the wind's properties are borrowed. Our knowledge of it comes at second hand, but it comes strongly. And this combination of a force that cannot be apprehended, but nevertheless has an undeniable existence, was our first experience of the spiritual. A crack in the cosmos that widened to let the tide of consciousness flow through. We are the fruits of that wind and have been seeded, irrigated, and cultivated by its craft. May these words land well in your heart, and may this time of worship enliven and seed, irrigate, and cultivate the best, the most tender, and the most compassionate spaces within your heart. Amen. Let us sing.
Okay, we've discussed this on numerous occasions. I don't have a voice. I can't sing, but I'll play an introduction and signal with my head when we all begin to sing. This is hymn 1002 in the Teal hymn book, and we'll sing 4 verses. Comfort me, sing with me, speak for me, and dance with me.
The chalice lighting words will be put in the chat box. If you have a small candle or chalice of your own, we welcome you to light it with us. Please unmute yourselves and feel free to stand as we say our chalice lighting words together. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light
of truth,
and for the
energy of action.
Welcome to South Valley. We would like to extend an especially warm welcome to those of you who are visiting us for the first time. We're so glad you're here. Our greeter today is going to drop our connection card into the chat box for any newcomers so you can be connected to our community. This is a caring and supportive community. If you find yourself in need of support, please fill out our pastoral care card, and our pastoral care team and/or minister will be in touch. The link to our pastoral care card is now in the chat box. You can also find it on the front page of our website. All our services are intergenerational. To find out more about religious exploration, excuse me, please contact me, Rebecca Britt. I'm the Director of Religious Exploration. My email is being dropped in the chat box now. We have a lot going on here at South Valley. And one of the best ways to stay connected is our weekly newsletter, The Happenings. You can sign up to receive our newsletter by sending an email to Lori Quigley. Her email is being dropped in the chat box now. Our community calendar is on our website and lists midweek events and classes, and you can also find us on Facebook. Although we're physically separated, we are still connected. And now for a few announcements. Our animal blessing is December 6th. We're so excited. And to prepare, we're asking you to submit pictures or short, like 20-second videos of your current or informal beloved animal companions. And I pass it over to Reverend Laura.
Okay, I am so excited to announce this next announcement. So not only have we had a successful auction, we're also going to launch a new initiative here at South Valley UU. For the first time ever, we're going to participate in Giving Tuesday. So many of you are familiar, of course, with Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and then increasingly with Giving Tuesday. And Giving Tuesday is a chance for us to give to all the nonprofits that we love. And this year, you have the opportunity to give to South Valley. The board and I are very excited to announce that we have decided to designate any Giving Tuesday funds that we raise to what we are going to call the Safe, Connected, and Joyful Reopening of South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. It is going to be a 3-part plan where we will make technology upgrades to our sanctuary that will allow us to have simultaneous virtual and in-person worship happening. Many of you have given us feedback that it's so wonderful. One of the wonderful parts about virtual worship is that you can come if you wouldn't normally be able to come due to weather or to just being out of town or just not feeling like you can make the trip that day, and that you really love being able to see the speakers up close. So we're going to be looking into some technology that will allow us to continue to have that once we're able to return. Second part of the plan is safe, to make sure that as we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic, that we're able to gather again in the sanctuary and have that be a safe and protected space for all of us to be able to gather again. So think of things like hand sanitizing stations, hand washing stations, other protocols that might be given to us by state and local health officials, just to make sure that we're doing what we can to continue to participate in flattening the curve and being able to gather safely with one another. And the last part is my favorite part, the joyful part, which is bringing some more life and some more joy into our sanctuary by perhaps doing some minor upgrades, perhaps some plants, perhaps some additional artwork. The sky is sort of, the canvas is sort of open to what we might do, and your ideas and your suggestions and your creativity is part of that. So how Giving Tuesday works is that on Tuesday, December 1st is Giving Tuesday, and we will have a link on our Facebook pages, and we'll provide that link on our listserv and on our website as well. And you just click on that link. We're going to use our Givelify app, which you are already familiar with, and you can just make a donation directly on that day on December 1st. So I'm so excited about that. I'm going to hand over to Sarah for one tiny little extra announcement about it.
Hi, it's me, Sarah again. I'm your treasurer, and I'm very excited about making a plan for reopening. It's nice to have something positive to look forward to right now. I'm excited to announce that we'd like to celebrate this with you on Giving Tuesday by giving you a free donut. That's right, make a donation on Tuesday, December 1st to our reopening fund, and then head over to South Valley for a free donut. We will be there from 10 to 11 a.m. with donuts, smiles, and waves in our SVUUS parking lot. We hope to see you there.
I'm so excited to share a collaborative video celebrating the many breads in our community. Sorry, I gotta share computer audio too. Okay.
Get started. Are you excited? I'm excited. All right, that should be just about ready. Be careful, it's hot. What do you think, Natalie? How did it turn out?
It looks delicious.
Wow.
Hey, Scott Valley. I'm Christine. I'm the first nurse. I'm going to make some bread. We were making pumpkin chocolate chip bread, yum yum, with this time of year. And it's a really complicated recipe, but we'll do our best to explain it to you. It takes a pot of spiced cake mix, which is already in the bowl, a can of pumpkin puree, and a cup of chocolate chip. See, like I said, it's really complicated.
Thank you. And we'll turn it over to Rev Laura for blessing for the offering.
So this community, our church and its many ministries, are only made possible by the gifts you give of your time, your talent, and your treasure. Many of you pledge monthly to support our work, and for this we are grateful. Your gifts help to ensure that we are able to live our values of love and justice in the world outside. Part of our ministry here at South Valley includes sharing our Sunday worship offerings with a charitable organization that aligns with our values and principles. Your gift today will support the work of South Valley and the YWCA of Utah. The YWCA of Utah is dedicated to eliminating racism, empowering women, promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. They offer comprehensive family violence support services for adults and children and helping them to build violence-free lives. Please give generously to help as we support this organization working tirelessly in our community. We do use the app Givelify to collect donations online during worship. You're invited to use giving the link that has been placed into the chat box. Thank you for your generosity and dedication. Our offering words have also now been put into the chat box. You're invited to say these words along with me. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts. Thank you, Ricklin. As always, your music brings just calm into this space. As is a tradition in many Unitarian Universalist congregations at this time of year, today we celebrate our bread communion, a time when we honor those bonds that hold us together, that which continues to grow and to prosper and to bear fruit in the world. Many of you earlier this week and last week picked up one of our butter and bread making kits. And if you did that, I hope that you all enjoy the fruits of your labors today during our service. I see some butter from Elena and maybe some others. I have the full view of everyone. I'm so glad that you are here. So let us, if you have your bread with you today, right now, I encourage you just to pull it close to you because we're going to bless the bread together. So here is my big and crusty loaf, my favorite kind with the seeds and the oatmeal on the top, the kind that crumbles down, the kind that nourishes deeply. As we come into this time of ritual and of reflection, we confess our dependence upon and our responsibility for our Mother Earth and the community of life in all its many forms. Breaking this bread, we celebrate our unity with all men and women, with all humans who have lived upon the earth, who have been warmed by the great sun, who have seen the greening of the spring, and who have stood watching winds sweep a field of wheat, who have tried to count the stars in a cloudless winter sky. I invite you to unmute yourself and to read the next part of the blessing along with me. The words will be dropped into the chat box.
What the words are?
Well, the words are, we bless these loaves. It's the next part of the blessing. I see the first part that I have already read is in there now. So let's just wait for the second part to be dropped in.
Well, that's perfect because I wanted that.
Perfect. Okay,
Anyway.
so now we can all do it together. Okay, back into ritual, everyone.
Yep.
Okay, so let's bless these loaves. We bless these
Bless
loaves.
these loaves.
We bless this
Bless this
bread.
bread.
We have in common with
with
one another
another
and with all people. We bless all the things that feed us,
body
body
and heart,
mind
and
soul.
We bless
We
these
bless
these loaves. We bless these loaves.
We bless
Bless these loaves.
I invite you to break off a piece of your bread if you have not yet, but do not eat quite yet. Hold on. Just longer.
You told us too late.
Smell the warmth of the bread, feel the texture, and know that you share this in common with one another in this holy place. Every seed remembers spring planting, memories of warmth and darkness and rich black soil. Every stalk remembers that first growing glimpse of sky, stirring wind and blessing rain, the sun's caress. The whole world is green. Every grain remembers spring, summer, and now autumn, growing gold, cooling air, paling sun, heavy, full, pregnant. Now is the time for harvest. Every loaf remembers all of this, all that has gone before, every hand, everything that touched it, cradles it like an infant and offers it up. Rain, soil, sun, seed, stalk, and grain, impossibly alive as nights grow long and all else withers. And so life begets life and greater life. until the great wheel turns and spring comes round again. Let us pray. This is a prayer offered from the Ojibwe tribe. It goes like this. Grandfather, Grandfather, look at our brokenness. We know that in all creation, only the human family has strayed from the sacred way. We know that we are the ones who are divided, and we are the ones who must come back together to walk in the sacred way. Grandfather, Sacred One, teach us love, compassion, and honor, that we may heal the earth and that we may heal one another. And the people say, may it be so. And now you may eat your bread and enjoy a musical interlude with Rick. Beloveds, I know that this week brings Thanksgiving, and for all of us, it looks different than it has in years past. Know that we travel together on this road, and if you need a little helping hand or a little encouragement, reach out to one another this week. This is the way that we will make it through together. So many of us have been celebrating Thanksgiving for all of our lives. And the myth of Thanksgiving, though, is not what we were maybe taught as children. According to author David Silverman in his book, This Land is Their Land, The Wampanoag Indians, Plymouth Colony, and the Troubled History of Thanksgiving. According to David Silverman, the myth of Thanksgiving goes like this. Friendly Indians, unidentified by tribe, welcome the pilgrims to America. Teach them how to live in this new place, sit down to dinner, and then disappear. They hand off America to white people so they can create a great nation dedicated to liberty, opportunity, and Christianity for the rest of the world to profit from. That's the story. It's about Native people conceding to colonialism. It's bloodless and in many ways an extension of the ideology and of manifest destiny. Many of us were taught this first sentence of the narrative, friendly Indians, welcoming pilgrims, sitting down to dinner, and then disappearing. And we believed this narrative as children because adults told us it was true. The craft projects were very fun, and there was often pumpkin pie with whipped cream for snack that day. Most of us here now know that this mythical meal never took place. And in fact, that the myth covers the reality of centuries of Native American genocide, the intentional destruction of their cities and towns, democratic systems of governance, their trading routes and peace treaties, and their diverse religious and cultural traditions. And of course, their advanced farming, grassland, and forest management programs, adapted and refined over a millennia of living in the North American continent. Our continued adherence to the Thanksgiving myth is a reflection of our ongoing discomfort with the messiness of our origins, and the ever-present xenophobia that imbues our nation's past and present. And grappling with this truth is the work of our generation, and in many ways, the work of our denomination. In 2016, since 2016, our denomination has been engaged in a truth and reconciliation process with our Native American siblings in hopes of fostering conditions for healing the great wounds of settler colonialism. In 2016, the Unitarian Universalist Association passed a business resolution committing ourselves to 5 years of education, reflection, and healing. And part of the impetus here is the fact that our denomination arose out of that Puritan tradition. And many of our founding churches on the East Coast and their members trace their lineage to the Mayflower. Our denomination and our advocacy was also active in the 1860s and was partly what caused Thanksgiving to be declared a national holiday by Abraham Lincoln in 1863. In this way, Unitarianism is at the heart of the colonial story. The year 2020 marks the 400th year anniversary of the landing of the Mayflower and the beginning of settler colonialism. Given the conditions on the ground for the last 4 years, I'd say we're very much learning that there is a generation of work to be undertaken. We have a lot more work to do. It may be difficult to speak these truths in the midst of a global pandemic, but part of what we do as Unitarian Universalists is we continue to hold that new and that narrative line of truth in the midst of difficulty. And we teach ourselves and one another how to stay true to ourselves and to our values as Unitarians. I'm grateful to the Native American truth tellers who have worked tirelessly for the full truth to be told, and the ways in which they are beginning to get small footholds on the narratives around this holiday. Our Native American brothers and sisters have demanded that their marginalization, the criminalization, and the forgotten narratives of their vast and diverse peoples be heard and reckoned with. Truth is powerful, and truth can lead us to a space where justice becomes possible. It may feel somewhat difficult to hold this in the midst of a global pandemic, but I want to offer a few ways that we might walk through this week as we engage in our own sorts of celebrations as we can in the midst of the pandemic. In 2011, the Harvard Business Review published an article by Yochi Benkler, a professor at Harvard Law School, and the author of a then newly published book called The Penguin and the Leviathan: How Cooperation Triumphs Over Self-Interest. And in this article and in his book, Benkler's research and review of studies across disciplines as diverse as evolutionary biology, psychology, education, and economic theory led them to the startling conclusion that the reigning narrative that human beings are universally rational and self-interested actors is only kind of true. While it is true that some people do act selfishly, Benkler's studies with his colleagues found that only about 30% of folks reliably act in their own self-interest. It's also true that about 20% reliably act to cooperate and collaborate, no matter what. And the remaining 50% of us, well, we'll act more or less collaboratively based on the context that we're in. if we believe that collaboration and cooperation are the right way to go forward, we'll be more inclined to act that way. And if we are divided and made fearful of one another, we're less likely to be collaborative. Evolutionary biologists now posit that collaboration is as fundamental to the process of evolution as mutation and natural selection. I found that particularly amazing to think about, that mutation and natural selection, those two twin pieces of evolutionary theory, have now been joined by a third piece, collaboration and cooperation. And yet, as many of us have observed over the last few months, we hear very little about collaboration and cooperation. And here in North America, many of us don't have a sense of our own identity and our collective identity as being inclined towards cooperation, despite the ample evidence that in fact, we're more likely to respond to a crisis with a casserole rather than a cudgel. Here in North America, we live in a historically Christian society, such that even if we ourselves are no longer or never were Christian, we remain steeped in the cultural perspectives that tell us that the nature of humans is naturally and inevitably towards selfishness, sinfulness, brutishness. And this idea of inherent sinfulness, or to put it in more secular terms, the idea that we are inherently self-interested, rational actors, is a basic assumption of our economic, political, and social systems. And again, it turns out that this assumption is mostly false. And yet, this assumption has very much real-world consequences, because our systems are highly effective at creating and sustaining oppression and marginalization as a result of this basic assumption. But that's good news in some ways, this knowledge, knowing that it is a systemic response to an assumption, not a natural inclination or nature. Because once we realize that we have actually created these systems, we can be in a position to shift them. And if Benkler and their colleagues are correct, and cooperation is indeed our natural inclination, and it seems to be the case because these studies have been peer-reviewed and reviewed for decades now, that collaboration and cooperation, when encouraged, does bear the fruits of justice, equity, healing, and loving kindness. I know we're in a very difficult time right now. The coronavirus is raging out of control in our nation and in our community. And coupled with this is a long-term anxiety of living in an increasingly politically divided nation. These real and existential threats hamper our ability to perceive cooperative and collaborative efforts that are already underway. And this is not new news by any means. We've all become aware over the last few months and years how negative news story cycles are very good hooks of our attention, and how our attention produces profits, even though it increasingly leaves us feeling anxious, exhausted, and overwhelmed, rather than informed, empowered, and primed for cooperative action. So the question is, how do we move on from here? What are some of the steps we can take today as we gather virtually and in our small family household groups for a holiday that we so desperately need at a time such as this? How do we move forward? We turn towards compassion. And I'm going to rely on Karen Armstrong to help us with that. In her book, The 12 Steps to a Compassionate Life, Karen Armstrong writes that we have two brains. Our first brain is our brainstem, and it is reptilian, instinctual, protective, judgmental, and tribal. Within our primal brain subsystem, we are subject to the 4 F's. These 4 F's are feeding, fighting, fleeing, and reproduction. I'll let that land for a second. Feeding, fighting, fleeing, and reproduction. And each of these has been known to cause us to make poor choices or otherwise act badly from time to time. Our primal brain is the place to go that we go to when we are frightened, lonely, angry, grieving, and hurting. And our primal brain is useful in alerting us to the danger that is immediate before us. For example, helping us to escape a tiger if one should run in to our homes. However, COVID-19 is a wholly different kind of threat. And the primal brain is very poor at sussing out right action under these kinds of conditions. The primal brain only knows how to sort friend from foe and does so in chillingly racist, sexist, and bigoted ways, because that is its nature. Luckily, we have more than just a primal brainstem. As humans, we have another brain, a larger and more complex brain called the neocortex. Our neocortex is gray and full of folds and wrinkles. It holds complexity and nuance quite well. And current brain research confirms that the neocortex is capable of overriding the 4 F's of the primal brain. We're wired for both compassion and cruelty. And this is the blessing as well as the challenge of our humanity. We can choose which brain we cultivate. And I'd say we're already well on our way. These past months, while very difficult, have also confirmed that we are indeed quite capable of collaborative adaptation. Here at South Valley, we are already creating the kind of community we long for. And while there are some who may never come to the table to collaborate, let's only give them 30% of our attention. Let's keep going. Let's keep finding ways to collaborate and to cooperate, to reach out and to connect. It's the better plan. We already know the touchstones to guide us on this way. It's right there in our chalice lighting and extinguishing words each week. Our touchstones are the warmth of community, the light of truth, and the energy of action. As you go forth this week, may you be well. May you reach out to one another as you safely celebrate this holiday. May you know that you are not alone in this time. Take good care of one another, and may it be so. Amen. Our chalice extinguishing words are being placed in the chat box now, and I encourage you to join us. You may unmute yourself as you wish. We extinguish this
chalice, but
not
not
the warmth
warmth of love,
unity,
light of truth,
and the energy of action.
of action. Please
hold each other
hold each other in our hearts until we
we
meet again.
Again.
Meet again.
May it be so.
Let us enjoy our postlude together. Our time of worship is coming to its close. May you be well, may you be whole, and may the light of love surround you, go ahead of you, support you, and lead you through this time. Take good care. May it be so, and may you go forth with the blessings of all of this community, surrounding you and whispering you into your ear the perfect words of blessing that you most need to hear today. Take care, and amen. We'll take a short break, and for those that would like